I didn't hear one. Anyone hear one? Raise your hand if you heard one. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Penfield Zoning Board of Appeals. Tonight's meeting is being video recorded and broadcast live on Penfield TV's Government Access channel, which includes Spectrum Cable 1303, online at penfieldtv.org, and social media platforms Facebook and YouTube via Town of Penfield Television. Following the proceedings tonight, the video recording will be available on the town's website and on streaming devices Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Simply search for Penfield TV in your app store, and you should know that it is free. If anyone wishes to address the board tonight on any public hearing matter, everyone's going to get a chance to do that several different ways. One way is we'll ask people to come up after the applicant is done with the presentation and give us name and address, and then ask any questions or make any comments. Another way is folks will be able to call that number and do the same thing, speak on the phone and give comments and ask questions. And yet another way is going to be through electronic comments on the town's website. Every once in a while you'll see me reaching over. I'm not checking World Cup scores or anything like that. I'm just looking to see if anybody filed a comment through the website. As we say every month, we value everybody's input on these applications. We think the town does a really good job of letting folks know what's going to be on our agenda so that they realize they can come in and speak about an application if they like. Now, the town does that in several different ways that I think most of us are familiar with. One way is that they send postcards to neighboring properties of the applicants. We've probably all received them in the mail. You get a little card that says, hey, there's an application at 123 Main Street, and it's for this relief or that relief, and if you have any questions, call this number. The town also posts the agenda on its website and here at Town Hall. And then also, of course, makes applicants, you're all familiar, most of you are familiar with it, makes applicants post the sign on the property so that when people are driving by, they say, hey, this property's up for review. If you have any questions, call the number. And once again, does that so that everyone knows they can come in and speak about an application. We think it does a really good job, and again, it helps us do our jobs. So tonight's meeting's going to be in two parts, but I don't think we'll take a break in between them. The first part will be we'll take care of any tabled items and or any typical matters that we have approval of the minutes from the last meeting. That won't take long at all. We do have one tabled application that we'll deal with. And then once we're done with that, we will start tonight's application process. We'll call them in order and ask the applicant to come up, as I said, to one of these tables, give us name and address. And then typically what we do is the zoning board member that's been assigned as lead to that application will walk the applicant through the process. Everyone has submitted a very thorough written application. We've all gone over them, so we pretty much know the nuts and bolts, and that's why we find it more efficient to walk the applicant through the process most of the time. I say that not to limit anybody's time to talk. If you want to make a point and you feel you need to say it, go right ahead. No problem at all with that. We just think it's an easier process, and frankly one that's sometimes makes it easier for the applicant too. So I think I covered everything I usually do. With all that being said, I'd ask everyone to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Thank you very much. So as promised, we'll move on with the agenda and we'll go to the approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll move to approve as written.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the draft minutes and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, tabled application. Come on up, good to see you again.
Okay, thanks for coming. Last time we were here, we talked about building I guess they have to introduce themselves again?
Yes, name and address.
Yeah, why don't you please?
Hi, my name is Dave Germerich, and it's 1786 Sweets Corners Road.
Thanks. We talked about the accessory structure in the back that's basically going to be like, I'll say, an indoor court for the back of your house there. You were able to come back with some information. One, a letter of support from a neighbor that reviewed the application, reviewed the concept of what it is, and didn't see any issues with granting it for the character of the neighborhood. Didn't see an issue. Because you do have barns, several barns. I guess, you go one side of your house, you can kind of see one from one side, one from the other, down from the road. I think just down the road there's a stable, actually.
Correct.
So, it's not out of character to have those barns there. You were able to come back with some dimensions and able to be about almost 15% less in square footage, I think, after you kind of reviewed what the guidelines were for the minimum size of courts for the pickleball, I believe it was for that, which then also, so that brings you down to about 390 square feet less. I think 2,250 square feet, I think, for the structure is what it ended up being. Okay. And then as a change as well, looks like the setback now, you were looking for 15, and now it's more, would be 20 foot from the rear setback. Correct. As well.
Correct.
Okay. What dictates the back? Like, could that be 25 feet? So, we're bringing, or, could it be a little closer, I guess, in a sense, so we're not looking? Because what we did is, Shannon sent us the information from one of the other variances that was similar to this. And one thing that they didn't do is they were able to set their structure within their property still, even though it was larger than allowed. But they're able to kind of set it in their lot, so they didn't need additional variances for the side setback. So I'm wondering if there's any leniency where, what's keeping you from pulling it a little bit farther from the edges?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I think we talked about it last time, but there is you can't see from the topography, but there's a swell where it goes down, so we could not, we have it up to that's kind of the sweet spot of where it will fit before we'd have to find a way to fill in this.
You don't want it down in the low spot where
it goes down, and it's this, it kind of comes like this and then goes down like this, so there's, like, this is level, but where it's you
can't really see it from this, but the topography kind of drops down in front of that.
Significantly.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Indicated it's not going to be used for commercial purposes, so strictly for personal use. No businesses run out of here. Not going to start a pickleball league or anything like that out of the back of your house. I don't think I have any other questions for you. I don't know if anybody else does.
I don't know either of you two do or not.
No, I had a chance to drive by and take a look to see kind of the rest of the area, how rural it was, the other buildings. So I think Andris hit the nail on the head as far as the surrounding properties having, several of them have at least buildings as large. In one case, I think it's, I'm using from your reference back this way, a very large building. Yeah.
Yeah, I just would note that, we have the other similar, I guess I'd say, application that Shannon did let us know about, and we actually went through a similar process there, that we had an application that involved a very large, very substantial variance request for a similar accessory building. We asked the person, we adjourned it for a month, I think, and asked the person to come back and maybe go to the back to the drawing board a little bit. They did, just like you did, and I think tonight we have a better application. Not that the first one wasn't really good, but we have a better one. So we appreciate the effort that you've made in between this meeting and the previous meeting.
Okay.
All right.
Let's jump into seeker.
Yes.
All right. I will move this type 2 action pursuant to seeker requiring no further review.
I will second that. Okay. So we had Andris make the motion, and I seconded that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then to the merits of the application, I'm going to move to approve. I think the applicants have done the due diligence here that we needed. And we got the other application that this was very similar to that we're able to reference back to. They were able to bring it down about 14% in size and also 14% farther from the property line about by making that reduction in size. Letter of support from the neighbors. that are most directly affected by it. So I think in terms of that, you can't see it from the road, honestly, because when you drive by, the way the cut isn't in the driveway, you can actually probably see that area unless you stopped right in front of the driveway and looked up. So driving by, I don't think you'd see it. From the neighbors, you really can't see it from that aspect. The topography dictates where it has to be without requiring major fill, and I think would have a larger impact on the environment than trying to find a spot on the property that already fits it. And I think, when we look at the character of the neighborhood, there are other barns in the area that I think are more visible from the road than this would be as well. So for that, I'll move to approve.
Yeah, the only thing I would add on that is when you have something like this for the proposed use, you always wonder about, is it going to be, everybody going to be having so much fun that there's a lot of noise? Like not that this was a pool, but like you'd see at a pool party, people are having fun, they tend to kind of get loud. And this is such an isolated area and a large area that I don't see that happening, but given the quality of your application and your presentation, I just have the feeling we're not going to have to worry about that with that, but I certainly, to a certain extent, we're going to trust that you handle this situation appropriately and not in a way that's going to result in any detriment to your neighbors.
Thank
So,
you.
just wanted to add that little commentary there.
Thank you.
Good. All right, so we have a motion to approve. Did we get a second?
I'll second.
We do now. Okay, so any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good luck. Thank you.
so much.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful night.
You too.
You too.
So when is the party?
Now I gotta learn how to play pickleball.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next application, please.
Okay. Keystone Novelties Distributors LLC, 531 North 4th Street, Denver, PA, 17517, request a recommendation of approval for the issuance of an itinerant vendor license under Section 162-6-E1B and Section 162-E2 of the code to allow the sale of sparkling devices at 1650 Penfield Road. The property is currently or formerly owned by Bill Grays Incorporated and is zoned LB. SBL number 138.08-1-24, application number 26Z-0026.
All right.
So good evening. If we could have your name and address?
My name is William Chrysler. I am the district manager for Keystone Novelties. I was here last year, same location as before. Nothing has changed. Everything is set up the same as last year. Even it's got the same 10 operators as last year. So we had no issues there. Everything ran great. And
Yeah, no, excellent application. All the details were there. I seem to be the sparkler guy. I get all of these, so thank you for the completeness of the application. I don't really have a lot of questions. I would make a couple of I will call them specifics to this, that the fire suppression, the same equipment you had last time is available this time as well. There's not going to be any lights or anything on the outside of the tent, no loud music being played.
Nope.
I see the hours are in here are the same as last year. And I don't know if you're aware, but we'll actually be approving this for 2 years versus 1 year. So you won't have to come back. Won't get to see us again next year.
I don't mind.
It went very well. We didn't have any issues when you ran it the last couple of years. And it's conveniently right on the way where I go to get my burger. So I don't really have any other questions, guys. These are pretty standard now. So.
Yeah, they are. Any other board questions? Anyone in the audience care to speak about this? All right, nobody's on the phone with a call-in. Nobody sent in an electronic comment, so let's proceed.
Yeah, for seeker, I would list this as an unlisted action and issue a negative declaration.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a seeker motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Of course, on the merits, I would move to approve this based on the fact it's an operation that's been very effective. They've run it several years. The community really enjoys it. And I look forward to buying some sparklers.
Great.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd know is that we repeat everything that we had for the stipulations from last year.
Yeah, correct, yeah. Same stipulations.
All right, we have a motion to approve
I'll second.
and a second. I would add that, what are we up to now? 4 locations in town?
That sounds right.
And for many years, maybe at least 10, maybe we've had these, and have not, knock on wood, wherever, is no issues with any of these. People have done, you and your competitors have all done, I think, a really good job of maintaining these in safe conditions, and that's good. Keep it up.
Yep.
All right, so we have a motion to approve in a second. All those in favor? Aye. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next application, please.
Jason Patty, 100 Stockton Lane, Rochester, New York, 14625, requests approval for an area variance under Section 250-14.3 of the code to allow an accessory storage structure larger than permitted under Section 250-5.1-F12A of the code at 100 Stockton Lane. The property is currently or formerly owned by Jason Patty and is zoned R120, SBL number 108.12-2-45, application number 26Z-0027.
Great. May we have your name and address, please?
Jason Patty, 100 Stockton Lane.
Okay. So your request here tonight is for a variance to allow a shed that's slightly larger than the code permits. Code permits, I think, 200, and your shed is 240 square feet. So your letter of intent says it's going to be used for typical stuff, storing lawn equipment, storage of seasonal items, general household tools. It's going to be built in keeping with the architecture in the neighborhood. I'm sure that's all true. You've done a really excellent job of going to your neighbors and getting their support for this. I think you have 5 or 6 or maybe 7 letters here, which is great. The really only question that I have is, why can't it be 200? Is it just a matter of you need that extra 40 square feet for the space, or is it built that size? Because I know it's a pre-built shed, right? Like it doesn't come in 200 square feet, or?
I'll just take whatever I can get because,
Yeah.
Convenience of space.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I figured from your application there. So it's a relatively small variance request, so I don't have any further questions. Anybody on the board?
No, sir.
Have any questions? Anyone in the audience care to speak about this? No phone calls, no electronic comments. Okay. Then we're going to move to the consideration. The first motion I'd make is to declare it a type 2 action under seeker.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'd further make a motion to approve the request. The main reason is it's a relatively minor variance request, 40 square feet. The applicant's done a good job of showing the need for the size here, and he certainly has done an excellent job of gathering support, not just lack of opposition, but actual support from his neighbors for this. So for these reasons, I would make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, moving right along. Next one, please.
Corey and Jennifer Winters, 407 Embury Road, Rochester, New York, 14625, request approval for an area variance under Section 250-14.3 of the code to allow a fence taller than permitted under Section 250-7.1 D1A of the code at 407 Embury Road. Property is currently or formerly owned by Corey and Jennifer Winters and is zoned R120, SBL number 108.11-2-33, application number 26Z0028.
Okay, may we have your names and address, please?
Jennifer Winters, 407 Embury Road.
Corey Winters, 407 Embury Road.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. You guys are here for a 6-foot fence, which under normal consideration and a side fence would be okay for a 6-foot fence, but you're on a corner lot. And so the town sees corner lots as basically kind of like you have 2 front yards. And so you can't have a fence taller than 3 foot when you have a corner lot in the front or on the side for your property. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, when I spoke with Shannon, she said that I could go right up to the front foundation of 6 foot, and after that, it's 3 foot.
Right.
We wanted to go 6 foot all the way, but it's not going to go all the way down to the corner. We're going to be about 46 feet from the corner, so it's not going to interfere with people turning right or left. And actually, that whole area was a mess.
Yeah.
I remember
I would say
that.
before, was that one that there's, everything was kind of growing right up to the edge of the road?
It was growing up to the road and coming into our property both ways. And it
Okay.
was getting a little hard to manage.
Yep.
And so I did go to the town, and the highway department took all the stuff from 30 feet to, from the center of the road to the property line, and pretty much cleared that all out. And the remaining trees that were there in the front, those big tall pines in the corner, that the highway department was constantly trimming for visuals for snowplows,
Yep.
for when they plow, we took those out too, so they're gone.
Yep.
So everything is cleared out right now, and now grass is growing in there. And we just wanted to put the 6-foot fence pretty much just right past the turnaround of the 2 cars. I mean, that we parked there.
Yeah, so it's I mean, it's somewhat for privacy for the area, because that was always fairly,
It was always
you know,
private. I mean, when we
covered
bought
before.
the place, we thought it was beautiful. It was like park-like. And in the summertime, I didn't have, you know, the visual to the street. But it was just becoming very overgrown between just getting wild and people throwing garbage in there constantly. Now we've noticed, I think I've had 1 beer can since they took that out. Now, I hope when the fence goes up, they don't start doing it again, because they think that we can't see them, but
Right, right. And on that side street, is it Cardigan? Is that what it is?
Cardigan Square, yes.
There's probably a fairly good amount of cars that I think go down that side, because it's a fairly long street with, you know, 30, 40 homes just on that side before it feeds in from
Yeah.
another street. So it's
The
somewhat
whole
busy
area
traffic.
is really busy, actually.
Yeah. Okay. In terms of fence, it's going to be a white vinyl fence, I
It's going
believe?
to be white vinyl.
Yep.
I didn't want to go wood because it's too hard to maintain. As the older I get, I've done all the painting on the outside of the house and stuff, and I
So-
don't want to do that.
Yep, so low maintenance will stay in
Very
good
low
shape for longer.
maintenance, and it'll look aesthetically nice for the neighborhood with the grass and the fence. It's night and day difference, except that I'm very open now.
Okay.
A lot of stop and chats,
Perfect.
which is fine.
I don't have any other questions.
Any other questions from the board?
No, sir.
I don't see any phone calls, nor do I see electronic comments. Anyone in the audience care to speak about this? Okay, let's move along then.
Okay, let's move to seeker. That's going to be a type 2 action, pursuant to seeker, requiring no further review.
I will second that. Oh, did I get in ahead of you there?
You did.
Great, my name goes into the record now. All right, we have a seeker motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
On to the merits. A couple things to point out. This is a corner lot, so there are parts of this that, you know, it's more difficult to have a fence that's 6 foot on all of it. So because for those kind of things, and I think we've seen other variances where there are corner lots for fences for 6 foot. Town engineering department, we actually, I double checked with them, and they sent a letter saying this wouldn't have an issue with sight line, anything like that. The old growth did stick out a lot farther, and I think that was more dangerous for the roadway than this side
Yeah, I
will
mean,
ever, or this fence will ever be.
Yeah, that's what we thought, you know, because I don't want to go all the way down. I just kind of wanted to protect the back of the cars.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
it, really, because it was a mess. I mean, now those will look good there, but it's just getting out of control.
Yeah, it'll be nice. Busier street, so in terms of, you know, I think just like we did Braybrook, you know, we get, you know, there was a 7-foot fence there. This isn't a 7-foot fence, but that was a traffic concern with a number of cars going by and kind of keeping their yards separated from the roadside. And I think this separation is what was there before will kind of come back, but in a safer way. So I'm going to move to approve.
Second.
All right, motion to approve for the reasons stated, and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good luck.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Does that mean I can go ahead and start the work next week?
Yes, because you don't need a permit for the shed, or for the fence.
Okay.
No permit needed, so you guys
All right.
can go ahead. I'll
Thank you.
type up the formal resolution, and we'll get it to you, but you can go ahead.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
You too now. Thank you.
Okay, next application, please.
Right. Rocco Barbieri Jr., 1464 Creek Street, Rochester, New York, 14625, requests approval for an area variance under Section 250-14.3 of the code to allow an accessory storage building with less setback than required under Section 250-5.1-F12B and larger than permitted under Section 250-5.1-F12A at 1464 Creek Street. Property is currently or formerly owned by Rocco Barbieri and is zoned R120, SBL number 108.07-2-1, application number 26Z-0029.
A lot of numbers. Rocco Barbieri, 1464 Creek Street.
Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for the application. So you're looking for, is it 2 variances, Shannon?
It's actually two.
3.
It's actually 3, yeah. So it's setback from the rear, setback from the side, and then it's also the size.
Okay, let's talk about the size first. So you're looking for a
20 by 40.
20 by 40, and what is permitted? I didn't have that detail.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I didn't write that down.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Oh, I missed that in the lead sheet.
That's okay. Well, I'll come back then to
Yeah,
the
hold on,
size.
let me find it.
As far as the location, so you are looking, you're supposed to have a 50 setback on both the rear east and on the north side. You're looking for roughly 50% variance on both of those. Big question, why?
I have lots of cars, and they're all in my front yard. I got them in the lawn. I've got tractors, four-wheelers, dirt bikes. Because of the location where I am, my neighbor owns all the land on Creek Street. I just want it away and put in a barn. I've been there for 20 years. A lot of my stuff is outside. I don't want to move. I'd rather just build
Yep.
and have all my stuff in one location.
Why can it be a little bit more in compliance? Meaning,
Yeah,
can you,
but it doesn't make sense to me because there's no one around me, there's no one behind me, no one can see it from the road or from anyone's house.
so the neighbor on the backside, who owns that property?
That's Nate, the farmer from Sunscape Farms,
Owns that back property?
owns that whole back, yeah.
Did you
That's all
talk to
it is.
them at all? I was
Oh,
just
yeah.
curious.
Oh, yeah.
I know you had 2 letters of support from your
The
neighbor and,
Heinzes, Yep, the Heinzes that own across the street, they used to own that farm behind me, and then the Simmons.
yep, so the 2 neighbors here, so the one neighbor who's going to be impacted on the north side? North side, gave a letter of support. The other neighbor also gave a letter of support.
I talked to Nate.
In the back and-
Yeah, I just figured it wasn't necessary because there's so much room back there that Shannon was there. It's wide open back there. There's nothing there.
Yeah, and anything more in compliance would be sort of more into the middle of the,
Yeah, and I figured it just doesn't make sense because I have a row of pine trees and I could tuck it in the corner and you can't see it.
are you, because you're getting cars and everything else back there, are you doing any type of driveway to get back there? Or is
No.
it just going to be on the
No,
grass
just-
and?
Yeah, just,
Okay.
yeah. I have ways to get my stuff on the side of the house, but pretty much whatever's there.
I got the size for you.
Thank you.
So the maximum is 1% of the lot, which is 240 square feet. The proposal is 800 square feet, so the variance is 560 square feet.
So it is quite a large variance on that piece. Why, again, does it need to be that big? Is there any
I
way to
just
make it a
want-
little bit smaller?
I just have the room, and I have all those things, and I don't want to go small, I want to go big, if I can, because it's just, there's nothing there, and my neighbors are actually excited that I'm doing this, so I can get all my stuff in one location. Like I said, there's nobody there, there's no one behind me, it would be foolish for me not to. I actually wanted to go bigger.
Where's everything stored right now that'll be going in there?
I've got 3 cars in my garage, I've got 4 cars in my driveway, and I've got 2 cars on the side of my house, on the lawn.
Okay.
And then my four-wheelers and stuff are all outside because I had a shed, a 12 by 10. I tore that down because that was an eyesore. So my tractors and four-wheelers and stuff, they're all just sitting outside on my patio furniture. She saw the layout. If you saw it, you would understand why.
No, I get it, 100%. So the part of what we do here is just try to, one of the conditions that we kind of go through is the materiality. So you heard Dan earlier talk about the other requests where the materiality was relatively small, right?
Right.
This is a pretty sizable, and so just, is there's any way, if you've considered and thought about the design, I know you have the space, was there any other consideration on making it slightly smaller? And if that would be even possible? Have you already gotten the renderings of what
I've already actually gotten a deposit. I already put down a deposit for the kit.
Yeah, okay, so it's a kit that...
Yeah, I already have it dug out and everything. She was actually
Yeah.
out, we measured last week.
Do you guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, can we go back to the, that there. So I guess that clump of trees,
It would be on the left corner of those pine trees.
right, so those trees aren't coming out.
No.
Right.
Two of them came out.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, you literally can't even see it from the road.
Well, that's the point that I was,
It was all weeds.
going to
I cleaned that out. That's
try to make, yeah.
That space to me that I'm actually can do something with.
yeah. So, I mean, there's no question, it's a large variance, just like the one that we had tabled, not, quite as big, obviously, but it's,
That was just all dead weeds and
yeah,
dead stuff.
and
I'm just trying to make use of it.
sure. It had, what's the number behind you, 1420?
1426.
1426.
That's the
so-
Sunscape.
Right, that's the farm.
That's the farm.
If that was a house back there, we'd probably be pushing, at least I
Right.
probably would be, but
Right.
Laura would be pushing it a
And
little
I as
harder.
well, right. That's
Yeah.
why I figured if you would come, that's why I wanted Shannon to come out to actually visually see
Yeah.
what the layout is.
And 1460 that's the one that would be most impacted
Gave the
by
letter.
gave the letter
Right.
of support.
And they're the ones that want that up so I can get all my stuff.
Right.
Well, yeah, okay. All right.
So the intent is, let's say, the cars that are stored outside, the lawnmower, those kind of things, all that stuff's
All that
going
stuff's
away.
going in there, yeah. All that stuff, yeah.
So it'll be cleaning up the property.
Pool and patio stuff, everything.
So given that you just confirmed what Andris said, would you be okay if we put in a condition in the,
At this point here, I'll take everybody's patio furniture.
what I was going to say is, would you be
Just don't
okay?
scratch the cars, that's all. I have to take them to car shows.
If we put in a condition that says you're not going to store anything outside,
No.
you'd be okay with that? Okay. Well, then I would, if somebody's going to make a motion, I would suggest we add that to it.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, any other questions from the board?
No, sir.
Let's see, nobody's calling in. Nobody wrote any emails or anything. Anybody in the audience care to speak about this? All right, let's move ahead.
So I'm going to first make a motion on seeker, that this is a type 2 action pursuant to seeker, requiring no further review.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, so this is a sizable request. However, I think given the uniqueness of the property,
Yeah.
that I will make a motion to approve. It is not in a development. That's another big consideration here. So when I think about the character, while we're not talking about rural East Penfield, it is still on a busier street where you're backed into a farm situation.
With the wildlife that comes around there, you would think you're in the Adirondacks.
There you
No,
go.
The deer and stuff that comes around there is nuts.
You could argue this is going to be an uplift to the neighborhood and more in concert because it'll also have the property, sort of have the vehicles and the other items that have been previously stored outside of a shed, in a shed, which will also be contingent of this motion, is that there would be no vehicles, patio furniture stored outside of the shed, that everything is to be inside. Mentioned it is sizable, however, again, we're mitigating that based on the location. It is self-created, but as is most all of these requests, they are self-created. So with that, I make a motion to approve all 3 variances.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the variances and for the reasons stated, and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good luck.
Cool, thank you, guys. Thanks,
All right.
Shannon. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next application, please.
Okay, Sean Stanton, 23 Penshire Circle, Penfield, New York, 14526, requests approval for an area variance under Section 250-14.3 of the code to allow an accessory storage building with less setback than required under Section 250-5.1-F12B at 23 Penshire Circle. Property is currently or formerly owned by Sean and Chelsea Stanton and is zoned PD. SBL number 139.12-4-100, application number 26Z-0030.
Sean Stanton, 23 Penshire Circle.
Thanks.
Good evening, Sean. Very thorough application. Thank you for that. So it makes our jobs a little bit easier. So you were proposing to put the 16 by 10-foot shed 5 feet closer, both in the rear and on the north and the east property lines.
Yep, that small little rectangle in the back.
Gotcha. And the reason for that, obviously, is partially the shape of the lot, of course, but as well, you have some existing fences that you are trying to work around.
Yeah, trying to work around the fences, also trying to mitigate the yard loss. The backyard's not really that big, so putting in a shed 10 feet from the rear and 10 feet from the side kind of really reduces our enjoyment of the yard space. Also, you can't see it from the front of the house at all. I sent pictures in, but you can't see it at all from the front, and you can barely see it from the back with the fence. So it'd be right straight back behind that fence in the back corner, so clearly you can't see anything back there.
Gotcha. I did note that you did receive a couple of letters of support from a neighbor. There was, however, one neighbor that indicated she wanted to make sure that it wouldn't be on the outlying side of the fence so that she could see it.
Have you seen that letter?
Yeah.
Well, it's short. If you want to read it to him, go ahead, because I think we're okay, but
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just,
I mean, it's definitely not going to be outside the fence.
yeah, that's fine. If it's not going to be outside the fence, then her concern is addressed.
don't bother reading it.
Yep.
I don't even know
That
why
was
the
the-
heck I suggested.
That was the only stipulation that she asked that it not be on the, so she didn't want to look at the shed, basically.
Right.
So,
The fence is
Sure.
blocking.
I mean, the shed looks nicer in some of the houses.
well, no, that's relative, and that's not why we're here, but, okay, fair enough.
Not nicer than my house, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem to be, especially because of the shape of the property,
Yeah.
I don't have any additional questions, and if you were to move the shed further into the property, it would literally be smack dab in the middle of your backyard, so.
That's how it feels.
Okay, any other questions from the board? No. I just, your application here is, you make a point that's, I think, well stated. It's a 10-foot requirement. You're asking for 5 feet, which is if you look at by pure numbers, it's a pretty significant reduction. But your language is the request is not substantial in practical effect. And what I take that to mean, I kind of agree with, looking at it, what the heck difference is 5 feet going to make? Now, of course, that's a factor for us, but rules are the rules. And there are reasons for the setback, safety and being able to maintain it and such. You need to have sufficient room, but I thought that was a pretty good point. I don't see anybody on the phone. I don't see any electronic comments, but we do have someone that wants to speak about, well, I'll ask anybody. I do have one. Jody DeLucia? Yes. Come on up.
I'd like to know how tall the shed is going to be.
It's in the specs, I think, it's 7 foot.
Go ahead and have a seat.
Have a seat. That way they can hear you on the TV.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a single story, like standard shed that you might see,
And how tall is your fence?
6 foot,
And the shed is how high?
7 foot.
So it's going to be a foot over.
It's going to go over the fence, yeah, not by a lot, but it's also going to be behind the tree. Are you worried about seeing the shed?
Yeah. a number of people
I mean, you're going to
are-
see the shed if I move it 5 foot or 10 foot, just to be clear. Like, the shed approval, like, the variance is for how close to the fence, 5 foot or 10 foot. So if for some reason here it doesn't get approved tonight, and I have to go back and say no variance is 10 foot, 10 foot, you'll still see the shed.
Okay.
And it's a very nice looking shed.
My other thing is, the homeowners, the people that live there do not own the property. The Devonshire Homeowners Association owns the property.
What property?
Our common area, where you butt up to.
Oh, sure.
And I was wondering why the board didn't get notification.
Well, I guess I don't, hearing you say that they didn't get notifications.
I mean, I received a card because I live on Courtshire, and I am on the board.
Did you receive it because you are a member of the board or because you live there?
Because I live there.
Yeah, so I guess I don't know how it's
We
sent.
don't
Is it sent out
have
to
like
residents?
Yeah, so it just sent out within a certain parameter of the actual property that's under review. So unless there's like a specific address for the property
Board.
owned by the HOA, that's the only way that it would have gone
What
there.
concerns me is, nothing against you, but if you do a petition and people sign it, that live on Courtshire, they have no right to sign it because they don't own the property.
Oh, no, they can certainly sign a petition. Anybody can that feels that the application should not be granted or should be granted. I
Yeah.
mean,
I don't
We
agree
don't,
with
we,
that.
yeah, we don't ever limit.
I don't understand why you say you don't agree with it. What, are we talking about two different things here? You said that people don't have a right to sign a petition because of where they live or whether or not
Because they
they
don't
own
own
it?
the property that
Oh.
their residence is on.
Now, anybody, I can sign a petition on an application pending in the town of Greece if I wanted to. I mean, there's nothing prohibiting that. Now, whether the board would consider that, how much weight they would give to it is a different thing. But they certainly have a right as a
Okay.
citizen.
And exactly where is the shed gonna?
Yeah,
It's
maybe we
hard
can
to
pull
tell
up the
from-
survey,
Yeah, so it's,
blow it up a
it's
little
right
bit,
there.
maybe.
Oh,
Yep,
okay.
this back corner.
And that's to scale.
That's really small.
It's a 10 by 16 foot shed.
Do we have a
Rendering
Google
of the shed.
Maps or something that shows that? So maybe that'll give you,
I mean, it's going to be, it would be underneath those tree branches. I'm actually going to have to trim
Trim.
like one or two of the branches just so it doesn't scrape the roof, And that's because some of the branches hang low, not because the
Right.
shed's particularly high.
yeah.
And I maintain that tree every year anyways. But I'm glad to know that you're on the board because I'd like to talk to you about how they don't maintain enough of that grass back there. Now I know who you are, so we can.
We
fit.
call that turnabout. That's what we call it.
They
Well,
don't get nearly close
whatever.
enough to the property, and I have to take care of a bunch of it.
Well, is your fence, is it set back?
It is, but not much. I measured it out, it's like 2 feet in from the property line, and they don't mow till like 10 feet, so we should chat with your mowing company.
You're talking about high grass that's actually on your property?
That they,
Their
it's
side
not
of the
because I
fence.
take care of it to make sure it doesn't look bad.
Yeah, well,
And actually, when I moved in, the neighbors complained that I wasn't taking care of enough of the grass closer to my property. And they just didn't know where the line was.
sure,
So it was really, they weren't taking care of the grass.
yeah, okay. Well,
But anyways, neither here nor
Yeah.
there.
so it sounds like what folks would see if they're looking at the fence is a portion of the roof, if that.
At best, if they could get an angle from the side not covered
From
by the tree.
branches?
Yeah, it sounds
Okay.
more like they're going to see the
Okay.
tree branches than the shed.
Mostly,
Well,
yeah.
hopefully
Well, we
that
were
at least
confused as
answers
to
your question.
Where it was going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay,
Okay.
very good. All set?
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience care to speak about this? All right. Let's
Okay.
go ahead with the consideration. then.
Then we'll go start with seeker, and this, I would type this, not recommend, I would state this as a type 2, requiring no additional action.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
So in the merits, I would move to approve. I certainly understand the uniqueness of the property and the placement and trying to kind of maximize the use of the space.
Can I ask a question? Now, I live back on Portshire.
Yeah, come on up and, same thing.
And I'm over at 19 Portshire, and I did have that similar question. I'm good friends with the board and members of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't understand why the board, like I said, I can give an approval, like I don't have an issue with your shed. 5 foot, 10 foot off, whatever. I mean, it's a great open area back there. I love looking back there. Okay, but like I said, in the same context, it shouldn't be my approval to approve or disapprove this project. It should go to the association, the board. They're the ones that, they own the land. If they should say 5 foot or 10 foot, not, the board here.
I mean, they have an opportunity, they did have an
Well,
opportunity to come speak.
they didn't get invited.
But it's public, it's a public
Well,
notice.
so hold on a second
Yeah.
here. I want to make sure I understand your comment that the homeowners association should be the entity that approves his variance request. What's the basis for saying that?
Well, because they own the land.
They own the land that he's putting the shed on?
Up to the back of his property. Well, and then you're offering a variance,
Oh.
5 foot.
So
But my question, I got a two-part question.
Yeah, but let me just finish my thought, because I
Yeah.
want to make sure I understand what you're saying. Certainly, the homeowners association has a right to comment.
Yeah.
This board is the one that's making the decision of the
Right.
variance. So I don't think we're disagreeing, we're just maybe saying the same
Right.
thing two different
I
ways.
don't
Now,
really
whether or not they got the card, I don't know.
Well, see, that's the thing, I don't think they even are aware of this. And I mean,
Okay.
that was just my
One of the board
question.
members is. One of the board members is.
That's only because I told her.
Right, but I mean.
Okay, because I found out from the two. that-
Well, so let me ask you, when did you tell her?
Just a little while ago.
You got a card?
Because I live on Cornshire.
Yeah.
Okay,
The other
Okay.
board
Yeah.
members do
Because
not.
I had neighbors that talked to me. I'm friends with,
yeah.
I got a good reputation with a lot
Well-
of neighbors.
Well, go ahead.
And like I said, my thought process was the same questions I'm asking here, was why were you approached when we're just renting a certain section here that we own? The rest is common property. It's not my property, it's common property around that whole project.
I honestly, I'm not understanding your question. Would you mind?
Well, I'm just saying,
repeating it?
no, it goes back to why, like I said, I mean, me living on there, I don't have an issue with it or whatever.
Right.
I still feel that the board should have had the opportunity to get involved.
Well, I
Well,
guess I
public
would say
knowledge,
that
they
they
didn't know
did
about
have the
it?
opportunity to get
Well-
involved. Now, I don't know that the board didn't get a card addressed to the board, but I'm hearing that you are a board member?
Because but I got the card because I happen to live on Cornshire.
And when did you get the card? A month ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks? Right.
Week and a half ago, I don't know.
No, at least 3 weeks ago.
Hold on, okay, so you're a board member, you got the card as a property owner, and, again, I don't know if the board got a card or not, but let's assume for purposes of this discussion that the board did not. Then I guess the question is, did the board receive enough notice of this application tonight? You heard me at the beginning of the meeting talking about do you have a sign on your property? Okay. And the agenda's been posted for quite some time. If you both feel strongly enough that the board wants to come in here and speak about this, then I would say, tell us that, and we can consider that, and when we're deciding what action to take tonight. I mean, you've heard the application, you know the
Right.
details more.
I just felt, sorry to interrupt you, but I
No,
just
it's
felt
okay.
they should have had the opportunity. I don't think they were aware. The sign that's on their side street isn't the street that you're, coming down Devonshire.
No, I get it.
Can I ask a question too?
Well, when he's done.
Did she notify the board after you guys spoke, or after she?
Well, why don't you ask her that
I
question?
call-
How does he know?
But you're on the board, so did you inform the board?
Yes, I did tell them.
And they didn't want to come?
I told them I was going to come.
So you came as a representative of the board?
There you go. So the board was
And
represented.
is a resident of Cornshire.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean,
And-
those both
and
make sense to me.
I'll tell you, I appreciate you passing that information on to the board. Again, we'll look into, what we do, what the town does in terms of notifying a board, because we have several homeowners association, and, should the homeowners association sort of automatically get notice, even if they're not within the 500 feet technically because their address is somewhere else? I personally think they should, but I'm not the person that prepares the list of who gets the notices. But it's good, go ahead. You better come up here. They're gonna yell at me saying that they can't hear yet, all the people at home watching this. That didn't even get a chuckle out of anybody, but okay.
You mean the 3 people that are at home watching this?
Yes.
No, one of the reasons too why I came, is because there were rumors going around that you were going to put the shed on the outside of the
yeah.
fence.
And that was my second question here that I want to ask. You can see the white vinyl fence where you say you're 2 foot off your property line,
For, the white vinyl fence isn't even the right property.
but that's right next to your property. That's where we came in thinking that maybe, and I called questioning whether that your shed was going to be on the backside of the fence because there is space, some 5-10 feet back there where they don't line up straight. You know, his trees are right there, and I wanted a clarification on front or back of the fence. That's
Sure,
why I'm
well,
here.
that's a fair question.
Yeah.
And when you say rumors about the fence, like I talked, the 2 neighbors that are neighbors of yours
Yeah.
asked me if it was going to be on the inside or the outside, and I said, on the inside of the fence.
Yeah.
Well, the outside's not my property.
That's not the answers we got, so.
That's
So
very
there is,
interesting.
we had referenced, somebody had referenced before that we did get a comment from Barb Vietz,
Yeah.
15 Corkshire. I don't know if she's on the board or she's a member, but she raised the same exact
Yeah, she's
issue
a
that
neighbor
you're
of mine,
talking
yeah.
about. It's one of the first things
Which is
you
yes,
addressed tonight.
One of the first things I asked. was that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, to
was
put
that.
it on the outside of that,
So
you're gonna,
I have a question for Shannon. So
Yeah.
you send postcards to physical, so there has to be an actual address, a structure to do that. And what I'm hearing is, based on what you said, Dan, is that if there is an HOA involved in the property in any way, shape, or form, maybe the town should consider some type of an adapting.
and honestly, not that I'm saying that you're not being truthful. I don't know. Did we mail the homeowners association a postcard? And if so, to what address?
We may
What is the
have.
homeowners association address?
So I looked it up. The property that sits behind the property in question is 121, and it is, what's the street? Well, it's not pulling up now. I think Corkshire. So I assume that so 121 Corkshire Lane. However, there's no like mailbox for that to go to because it's property owned. So it's possible that there was a postcard sent to that address, but the mail carrier couldn't deliver it somewhere.
Go check right now.
That is not
Right.
I
So-
don't believe that's an actual business residence.
Sure, so, but
You know,
like
'cause
that.
On 19, the number's right there,
Sure.
right behind.
So the way that it works is that it takes like the center of this property, 23 Penshire Circle, and then it creates a big circle around the area within 1,000 feet, right?
Yeah, it's depending upon the acreage of, what is it, is it 23 Penshire?
Yep.
Yep.
It's determined upon the acreage of that, and then it's either 500, 750, it's probably like 500 feet.
Sure.
And
And
then
that's-
it takes all the nearby parcels.
Yep.
And the database generates the addresses and
Mm-hmm.
the postcards.
Well, maybe like I said, something good that can come out of tonight is that in the future, that could be recommended or done.
So the
That you take
problem is
the
that
HOA
we
into
don't have,
Because their address is what? Where are they? They're in Arundequoit.
They moved out to Greece. I
Oh, they're
don't
out
have
to
the
Greece?
address right. Oh, you're talking about the realty
The
company.
property manager?
Property
Yeah.
management
Oh, yeah,
company.
yeah.
so the
Well,
problem is that the town is not always aware of
No, I
HOAs
get it.
because we don't get involved in that directly.
Yeah.
That's a separate
And
entity, so we
that's
might
a
not
software
have.
program.
Right, so we might not have record that there is an HOA, and then even if there is, a mailing address to send to, so it's not a perfect system, but that's why the town notifies in all the other ways that Dan mentioned, so that there's, and like the neighbors who, so more likely than not, are someone's in the HOA to be able to relay that information.
Is there a way to sign up through the town for agendas or notifications or anything? Do you know?
I don't, is
Yeah,
there?
We have a few people that like to be notified of all meetings.
Okay.
Regardless, so there are a few
Well,
members.
maybe you can take that back to your next board meeting and say, hey, get on that list, and 95% of it, 99% of it probably be irrelevant to there, but
Right.
at least they'll have the chance.
Okay.
And we will take it back to the town for consideration. How do we handle homeowners associations?
Yeah,
when
we can,
they're- 'cause
we'll
it's-
definitely look into it.
Yeah, I
And we
mean,
can
it's
check
a
to see
totally
if a postcard
legitimate
did go out.
concerns to have, yeah. And the homeowners association is entitled to voice its opinion as well, for sure.
Right. But in all honesty, I don't have an issue with approving it,
Yeah.
okay, whatsoever. I just communication and
Yeah.
involving the HOA or the
Absolutely.
department.
And it's
yeah.
fair. And it's, to come here and raise these issues and ask the questions, the one, I mean, if he was coming in and putting the shed on the other side of the fence, I think we'd all be.
Certainly. Would be a completely different conversation.
If you looked at the back of the property, you know,
You
that
might,
could
it's
easily be
a
done,
legitimate question, yeah,
Yeah.
get it.
you know?
Okay. Anything else?
No,
All
we're
right.
good.
Well, thanks,
Hey,
folks.
thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. All right, I don't see anything on the phone or emails. Anyone else in the audience care to speak about this? All right.
I'm not sure if you already seconded it.
Oh, I had not completed the seeker was done. I had given all the reasons for the approval, and then there were some additional comments, so I didn't have a second on my motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that was,
Good luck.
I would have never thought I'd get more conversation than the 500% variance, but thank you all.
way to walk out with a smile on your face. All right. Next application, please. But, you know, that's how it's supposed to work. What the heck?
Okay, CEC Entertainment, 1707 Marketplace Boulevard, Suite 200, Irving, Texas, 75056. Request approval for a conditional use under Section 250-13.3 of the code to allow a Chuck E. Cheese Adventure World Entertainment Center at 1900 Empire Boulevard. Property is currently or formerly owned by DeMarco Baytown Associates LLC and is Zone GB. SBL number 093.02-1-23.111. Application number 26Z-0031.
Hi.
Hi.
May we have your name and address, please, even though we just heard it, or something
Yeah.
along those lines?
Thank you, City Council, and thank you, Shannon, for working with Sarah for this. Justin Lee, don't hold this against me, but I have the Texas address, so 1436 Keller, Texas.
All right. So,
Texas.
Chuck E. Cheese Adventure World Entertainment Center, what do you guys want to put there?
So this
It's
concept,
been a long time since I've been at Chuck E. Cheese, Laura. You don't have to snicker right away. Go ahead.
Sure we do.
so Chuck E. Cheese, the original concept is more based on games and all. This concept, Adventure World, is active play with snack bar, but family entertainment. There is a few games in there, but nothing like, the original Chuck E. Cheese layout and all, so.
Right. Okay. So are there any pictures of what it's going to look like inside?
That picture of the slide is an actual picture of the slide in our
Okay.
Arlington location. We have one, Arlington is our only location right now. We're going to build out 6 across the country this year and hope to 10 to 20 next year. But that's an actual picture of the slide in the Arlington location. And then if you scroll down, there is an entry portal. So when kids enter into the park, scroll down a little bit more and you can kind of see through that portal a little more. Right there on the right side, it's hard to tell by that picture, but kids would walk through that portal. There is a kid check system where, you are, you have to check in to get in there and check out to leave. That's a safety feature that we use, that Chuck E. Cheese uses and the Adventure World. But you walk into there's a snack bar on your left, there's a toddler area, there is a big active play, area that's 2 stories at this location, and then there is a showroom for birthday parties and all that has a kind of a TV video wall that will play, things to enhance birthday parties and the adventure.
So thank you for that. I took this when I first saw this application that it's, and don't take this in a derogatory way, but it's like a big indoor playground, really is what it is. I'm glad you brought up the issue of the child check, because that was really the main focus. I'm very familiar with the plaza, plenty of room to park and all that stuff. Can you talk a little bit more about the, the safety features? Are there going to be rules about, I'm not going to be able to drop my two-year-old grandsons off there and come back and get them 5 hours later. So talk a little bit about that, that's child check or whatever you said before, too.
Yeah, so the kid check system we use across all the Chuck E. Cheese locations, that is a safety feature for us, where the employee will check the kid in with the parent, and they either get a stamp or wristband or something like that. And that way, when the kid and child try to leave, they make sure that they leave with the person that they came with. No child's leaving by themselves. So, it's just kind of a safety way to, know that that kid that came in with that parent is leaving with that parent, and whether it's done by stamp or wristband or how that's done.
Okay, and what hours do you anticipate operating and days of the week?
It'll probably vary by volume. Sometimes our higher volume locations open closer to 10 or 10:30 in the morning. The lower volume locations around 11, so it doesn't vary by much. There is a little bit for the nighttime closings during the week. Sometimes they're 8 o'clock, sometimes 9 o'clock, and then the weekends offer an extra hour. So a Friday, Saturday night maybe, move that 8 o'clock closing to 9, and maybe the 9 o'clock closing to bump it back an extra hour. So.
And there's actually going to be some food prepared there at the snack bar?
There is. It's similar to like a concession stand style. It's not a full-on type 1 type hood and oven type system. There's no food prep. It's a frozen pizza that is able to be heated up. There's nachos. There is popcorn.
You can have one of those things where the hot dogs roll on the thing for about 10 or 12 hours there. Get them nice and
That's the best kind of hot dog.
Oh, heck yes, I love them. All right.
Yeah, but concession stand style.
Good.
So.
Okay. And do we have a map of the plaza just so we can all know exactly where it's?
I just had a few questions.
Yeah,
here.
go right ahead.
Capacity, how many people are you thinking? Employees, all of that?
I don't have those exact answers on employees. I can get that to you. I think we'll have to provide that for health applications and all that. As far as seating capacity, I believe that we're around 300. Now, sometimes the occupancy load shows that the space will fit more just because you may be standing around a game and all. But it's close to 300 seats is what we try to target.
Okay. And where specifically in the plaza? I know you were just about ready to.
It's the old Rehouse, so like right next to Walmart here, facing Walmart.
Yep. And there are tenants on each side of that location, I think.
There's a batting cage on the left side. I don't remember who is to the right of us.
I think it's the shoe store.
And then on the front is Burlington and the gym. Yep.
Any idea where the primary parking would be for this? Would it be above it on the map there?
So I guess we'll call that Plan North.
Yeah.
Yes, there are parking spaces planned north. There also is big parking, I guess we'll call it Plan Right, or go maybe towards where Walmart was, to the right. Yes, there's a big parking field there as well.
The only thing the reason I ask is more, I think you talk about safety, but with kids running around, I don't know, like I think about like Panorama Plaza where Master Kim's, they actually put a crosswalk out there. I don't know if that's something that DeMarco's and Baytown would consider, but if there are going to be a lot of kids running across there, that might be a good consideration for having some kind of marked walkway across there.
Because you're right, because it's that Walmart's plaza parking right there that
you could see
isn't the best parking lot.
The line.
And I think actually that's where like the pickup and windows and stuff, like if you do pick up groceries, is on that side, so that's where people would drive through. If I'm not
There's
mistaken.
also a bus line that comes through from the north, I guess, or east, wherever it is. It comes down and then cuts in front of the street of shops. Will not go in front toward Burlington and the gym, but will turn in front of the building. But that may be where some of your folks are walking, and Andris is right to raise the issue about kids running because they're excited to get into the play area. So we need to make sure that you talk with DeMarco about proper safety. And I guess I'd say we should have the town engineer take a look at the safety features, make that a condition as well. Crosswalks and, stop signs or whatever traffic control devices the engineer deems appropriate for safety concerns there. I'm assuming you wouldn't have any objection to any of those.
No, that's a good point. We have had that come up in other locations where we either, put up a stop sign or put up a speed bump or, some striping and all, so.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parking, like Dan mentioned, in the whole plaza, but where I think most people will want to park is on the other side of that. It's like, the better parking is in front of Burlington, for sure. But I don't think people will park there. I think they'll park the Walmart side, and that is much more dangerous, I feel like.
Yeah. Again, it's just, we'll make it a condition that the town engineer review and approve whatever
make
safety plans.
recommendations,
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions from the board?
No, sir.
No call-ins, no electronic comments. Anyone in the audience care to speak about Chuck E. Cheese? No? Okay, great, very good. Then we'll move to the consideration. I'll make a seeker motion to declare this an unlisted action and further issue a negative declaration.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I will therefore make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for the reasons stated. I think it's, once again, good that space is being filled in the plaza. To me, this is a use that I think is a good use for the community, and it'll get a lot of business, especially considering the other uses in the plaza. I think that it fits in well with that. Safety is paramount. We've heard from the applicant about safety regarding the use in the inside of the building. We've raised issues about safety on the outside, so I think the refer it to the town engineer will help that as well. And if either the applicant or the property owner, DeMarco, has any issues or questions, reach out to make sure that that gets done well. So all those reasons, the hours stated, 7 days a week, 10:30 to whatever hours are there, part of the application as well. I'm fine with that.
I'll second.
All right, a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Safe travels. All right.
Mark Frederico, 40 Avalon Trail, Webster, New York, 14580. Requests approval for an area variance under Section 250-14.3 of the code to allow an accessory storage building larger than the principal structure under Section 250-2.2 at 47 Leedale Drive. The property is currently or formerly owned by 47 Leedale Drive LLC and is zoned R120, SBL number 093.06-2-27, application number 26Z-0032.
Good evening.
Hi.
I'm Wendy Mahar with Mahar Engineering, 2024 West Henrietta Road in Rochester. I am the client's engineer here to present the project this evening. And as you described, we're looking for a variance for the accessory structure for the client for storage. We're here merely due to the definition of the accessory structure. We are meeting all the setback requirements, lot coverage requirements, building height requirements for the accessory structure. Again, the subjective criteria outlined by the definition of a accessory structure, not dominating the principal structure. So if you look at the property records, we have about 1,476 square feet, and that's the heated living space or approved conditioned living space. And our barn or accessory structure is basically, if you count the lean-to, it's about 1,953 square feet. If you don't count the lean-to, it's about 1,436. So Again, we're a little bit over, but not much. And I guess it depends, the description of the accessory structure is a little bit vague. It just says dominate. I don't know if that's square footage or footprint or, volume.
Yeah.
So,
So the way that we've always looked at it is square footage.
Okay.
So the square footage of the home being, 1,476, the square footage of this being about 500 square feet larger. So that's sort of how we've always viewed it, and the town would look at it.
okay.
You had mentioned that, is the lien, I actually had.
She asked him what's a lean-to.
I didn't know what
That's
it
a
was.
lean-to right
So,
Okay.
if you count and I have a photo.
I'm sorry, I'm not.
If you count this footprint, we're actually below
So
the
what's
square footage.
So what is going to be enclosed is going to be
Correct.
within the square footage. You're putting a patio, I'm going to call it a patio.
Yeah, it's just a covered
A covered patio over the.
on the side.
Side,
Yeah.
and that's what pushes you over the 500 square feet.
Yeah, from a bird's eye view, that footprint would just put
And
us
we
slightly over.
We count that because it is covered. We count that as part of the square footage.
Yep.
Is there any way to not do that? Is that part of your client's
Well,
consideration?
he's looking for storage, and I guess realistically, if the client finished the basement in the house, the square footage would actually be over, and we wouldn't have a problem. So I guess that's why we're here, is to, and I get it, square footage, but
Yeah. And the covered, I'm calling it a patio.
that's fine.
The covered lean-to?
Yeah.
Call it the covered area.
A lean-to. I'm sorry, does
Yeah.
everyone know what that is?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. That is a necessity of or at least of desire, because they want to put, from an aesthetic standpoint, they want that to be able to put rocking chairs, because they know that won't be storage, right? They wouldn't
Right.
be able to store anything. But
Right.
from an aesthetic standpoint,
It
that
gives
is
them
important.
some covered outdoor space, yeah. In the lot itself is over 8 acres, so it's not a small lot.
That's
The other
important.
thing we're doing is when you come into the site, it slopes down and grades towards the lake, obviously, so it's not going to sit proud or up higher than the house. It's actually sits down a little bit from it, so it's not, in front of the residence. It's a little more discreet on the cul-de-sac, sitting further back, so.
And you bring up a good point. We actually received a memo from the planning board earlier, just with regards to, this is consistent because you had mentioned the environmental topography of the property, that this actually does not have any impact, and the planning board was supportive of at least the concept of putting the shed or accessory building there.
Yep.
What is the storage going to be used for?
He has some cars,
Okay.
vintage cars that he wants to store there, and I think a small boat, maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that's what
The
he's
front there
looking
looks like one of the garage doors is large enough. It might be an RV or something. too.
Yeah, oh yeah, he does have an RV. Yep.
Yep.
Any electricity going out there? Will there be lights?
Oh, of
There-
course, yeah, there will be just electricity.
Okay, is there any surrounding neighbors? You'd mentioned this is on 8 acres of land, but are there any surrounding neighbors that have voiced either opposition or support?
Not that I know
Specifically,
of.
where the lights may be pointed to, would they be motion-censored lights? Or on the outside
They
of the
can
building?
be dark sky compliant, I know that. I
Okay.
don't know what he's anticipating for the front of the structure, but I can certainly find out.
And there was no concerns voiced that you're aware of from any of the surrounding neighbors?
Not that I'm aware of.
I didn't have any other questions?
You said it's an 8-acre lot?
It is,
So we
yeah.
could have a almost 3,500 square foot structure on here with still no variance, except for it's just going to be bigger than the primary dwelling.
Just barely
I think
over.
we ran into something like that just recently.
This is
where
the
someone
second.
had,
Yeah,
They didn't
had
have a
one.
mammoth house, but they wanted to have a barn. They had 20-some acres. Like that
big
wasn't
property.
the issue. It's
Yeah.
more. It's almost like it penalizes the person that has not a big house on a large property in a sense.
Yeah.
Could you go back to, I don't know if it's the Google Maps or what?
Oh, yeah, this just hasn't, this is the GIS, it hasn't been updated, so 54 is now part of 47.
So you knew exactly what I was going to ask.
I saw your face, and
You
you
saw
were
my
like,
face,
I saw the
okay.
wheels
Yeah,
turning
it's-
there.
It is all one lot.
Like,
This
It's
lot
all
has
one
been
lot now,
combined.
yes.
Yeah.
Great.
But I just took this 2 weeks ago, but it hasn't updated in the system yet.
So where is it going to specifically go? Do you know?
See where it's a little bit graded there? And
Right
I
there.
don't know when
Okay.
this was taken, but yeah, it kind of dips down towards the lake, so it sits a little lower.
Here's the
Yep,
site plans.
yep. Off the
So go back again to the prior one. Let's say I'm standing at the very edge of the cul-de-sac, and I don't know if that's a little sort of path or roadway that's going down there or not, but yep. If I'm there walking down there or standing on the edge of the cul-de-sac, am I going to be able to see this?
You'll be able to see the top of it, yeah.
The top of it, okay. And how about, what is that, 42, the home at 42? And I don't know if there's another home on the other side of the cul-de-sac.
It sits back,
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess I'm just wondering what folks that live on the street are going to be able to see it. Probably not a lot, but it's hard to tell from this. But I know that
It's
it
kind of
slopes
tucked in the woods.
greatly. Oh, yeah, that's
There's some conifers
Yeah.
around that area, and he's not looking to,
The grade drops down farther as you leave the cul-de-sac.
oh yeah, it drops, beyond where this barn is going, and actually at the back of it, it drops right off,
So in a sense,
Yeah,
if you're
very
standing at
much,
street
'cause
level,
it
you might be
just was
looking at,
limited.
in theory, 15 feet up on this structure already because it's already dropped down.
It's already
You're not
dropped
seeing
down.
There you go.
Up like this, you're seeing more
Yep.
of the top of it.
Yep,
She said it was going to almost be even with the home.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
yeah. That's a good,
Have they spoken to the neighbors?
Well, we have some folks from Leedale that are,
Oh, okay.
requested
That
to
would be-
speak,
That would be
so
my,
I
that
don't
would be
know.
my first question, if we've spoken to the other, okay.
yeah. Okay, any other board questions? Let me
No,
just
sir.
see if anybody's called in. No, if anybody's electronic comments. So let me just ask, we have 2 people signed up. We'll call them first, and then, of course, I'll ask if anybody else, no particular order here. Richard Klein from 15 Leedale.
Come right up.
do you want me to lead?
You're fine.
Okay.
We got enough mics.
Plenty of mics.
Okay. I just have a couple of questions not related to the size, not related to location, because I'm like 3 houses from Bay Road, so it's not going to change my social calendar. And I won't be able to see it from my house, or even if I'm in the driveway or the street in front of my house. My 2 questions are, you said vintage cars, boat, RV, boom, boom, boom. I see that his brother lives on the other side of the cul-de-sac from Mark, right?
Yes.
And I think he brings in some earth equipment from some time, not earth, but heavy equipment, trucks and things of that nature? You don't know?
I don't know.
Okay. But Mark is only planning to store what you said here,
Just personal items.
personal items, so no heavy traffic going and coming into that barn?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, that answers that question. The other one should be easy. This street, Leedale Drive, is zoned for residential, is that correct?
Yes.
Will this change that at all?
No.
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 I'm done, I'm good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for coming in.
Appreciate it. C.C. McFarland.
Hi. Cece McFarland, 10 Leedale Drive, Webster 14580. So it was hard to see from back there. Where exactly on the property is this structure going to be located?
So it's this square right here. This is that like smaller driveway. This is the main driveway up to 47 Leedale. And then I'll pull this up so you can see where that's going to sit. So kind of over here.
Okay. And so I have concerns about it changing sort of the character of the neighborhood. I do walk my dog around that circle a lot of the time, and I feel like putting in a structure like this will look more like a barn, which nobody else on the street has. The house, not 47, but the one on the other side, which is owned by the same last name, brother, I assume, already has a house that is very different than the nature of the rest of the neighborhood. This structure is going to be larger than a lot of the houses on the street, and so that feels like a significant change to the area. There is a rumor that this family is trying to get long-term plan, trying to get the street rezoned as commercial, which would change the nature of the neighborhood quite a bit. I don't know if that is true, but I do know that this is not the first time that this variance has been proposed. I think it is very interesting that the postcard we got said that the property was owned by Mark Federico, but tonight's agenda says that it's owned by 47 Leedale LLC, and that these what was two lots have been combined. So I have concerns about the long-term impact of the nature of the neighborhood if we start to go down this path. I know that the family owns a construction company, which is why Richard was asking about, is our construction vehicles going to be up and down the street? We already have a lot of traffic because a lot of the fleet of the Federico Construction Company seems to be housed at number 50. So this kind of opens a lot of questions for me as a resident of the street in terms of where are we going if we're granting this variance? What's the next variance?
Yeah, legitimate concerns, I would say, on that. I think in terms of the commercial machines and such going there, we've asked that, and we've been told by the applicant it's not going to happen, personal only. So if there is a motion to approve.
Because her answers said to her knowledge, which is not the same as no.
That's what I was getting at.
Okay.
If there is a condition, if there is a motion to approve, it will contain a condition that this is not to be used for commercial purposes.
Okay.
Personal only.
I have just a clarification point on that. Are you saying currently those types of vehicles are coming up and down the street and being parked at a
Mostly pickup trucks and vans marked with Federico are going up and down the street all the time. Occasionally there will be another like heavier machinery thing, but they are not branded, so I cannot say that it is them.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if there's, what's the number of the house? 50?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one there. We can't, can you find something that'll show us that whole property like George had?
Where was I?
And then with regards to the other variance, because you mentioned the other variance, that was, my understanding on that, Shannon, is before the home was built, there was a request, but that was withdrawn before it got to.
So I think it was before the lots were combined.
And there was no.
So there was no house on fifth, on the lot, well, like how this one says, let me pull this back up, like how this is 54. So the proposal was to put this structure on this lot, but there's no house on this lot. So since then, the lots have been combined, so now there's a house on the lot.
was that withdrawn before?
It did come to one meeting. The board asked for more information. It was tabled at the request of the applicant and then withdrawn.
Yeah.
But that was, like, we
So
we
it
had
looks
that.
like they wanted to put a shed there, and so they bought this other property so that there was a residence and combined the two lots so that they could put a shed there, is what it looks like to me.
But I'd like to note, or state that the property itself, where the house is and where the barn is, that's really the only location you can develop that site. It's so steep beyond that, you really can't put much more on that. And I do, though, know that Mark Federico owns a demolition company, and his equipment is far greater in size that would never even fit in this barn.
Okay.
So I know he intends to keep it as a residence, not a he has no intention of turning it into commercial. I think when he ran into roadblocks before, he decided, okay, that's not going to fly, so he withdrew his application.
And that was in 2020.
I don't know, I wasn't involved with it, but
It was
I was told
2020, I
that-
believe, yeah.
There was something about, wasn't there something about planning a path down to the bay as well with
I don't know. There might be.
dock and everything?
It's very steep.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that you can
Absolutely.
really have anything. There's a shared access down to the beach area.
Yeah.
And to clarify, so the variance on this too, just for, if we didn't approve the variance, you could still build the exact structure you're looking for, just without that
Lean-to.
lean-to.
Yes.
Yeah, or finish
that
the
correct? Is
basement
that-
and it considered to be a 3,000 square foot house, a living space in the town records, and we wouldn't need a variance, so,
Right.
I mean.
The concerns that you've raised in terms of changing the neighborhood, I totally understand those. However, I guess I'd also say it's not happening at the Bay Road end, if you will. Where you live and where you live. You're toward the Bay End Road too, right? So that doesn't mean that they're not legitimate concerns. It just means that if somebody closer to you comes in and they want a larger structure, it's going to be a completely different application, certainly from where I'm sitting from. Here you have the slope, you have the bay, there's a lot of space. You're not really going to be able to see a lot of this unless you're one of the homes at the end. And to me, if you're at the end, it's because you're visiting someone or you live there or you made a wrong turn and you're turning around.
No, they turn around in my driveway.
Oh, they do? Okay, so they realize it early enough. So again, your concerns are totally legitimate. I'm certainly not aware, but I wouldn't necessarily be aware of any request, formal or informal, to change the zoning, but man.
Like I said, it's a rumor.
Oh, I know,
But-
and everything around there. There's what, 4 or 5 streets as you continue toward Webster. There's the, Bay Wind complex.
There's so much commercial so
Yeah.
close.
Yeah. So, but there's a lot of homes on Leedale. But I'm not on the board that decides the zoning changes. So, okay. I don't want to cut you off.
No, I just wanted to express my concerns, so.
And thank you for doing that. So I will ask, is there anyone else in the audience that cares to speak about this? All right. Thank you very much. I think the point, Laura, that you've made about if this gets denied, what can be done is a legitimate one and a fair one. In addition to the lean-to issue. If the lean-to issue wasn't there, none of us would be here tonight.
Right.
And, so it's, any event, the concerns raised, I think, by everybody are pretty legitimate, and I think the applicant's done a good job of addressing them.
And I think with the mass of the structure, the lean-to sits lower than the primary roof line of the.
Yeah. Okay, well then, no one else left to speak. Let's move to consideration.
First, I'll do seeker. So this is a type 2 action pursuant to seeker, requiring no further action.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Okay, so on the merits, You know, we talked about the size of the variance request. I was going to make a motion to approve with the condition that this is not to be used for any commercial storage of any construction or any type of equipment, heavy equipment, however you want to phrase that, Shannon, in the write-up, but the intent is to be an accessory building for the residential home.
I would also just add that the Town Code 215-8 does cover commercial vehicles in residential zones.
That you're not supposed to have them.
Not allowed.
Well, I could rattle it all off, but certainly the board could reference that in addition to any other conditions.
Yeah,
Not allowed.
It stipulates exact what type of vehicles can or cannot be on a private property.
Yep, I can reference the specific code section.
Yeah, so that way
Thank you.
wouldn't be an issue.
It is a variance that, when you look at it from just the square footage, it does appear to be a little bit on the larger side. It's 33% of a variance. However, when you take into account what is actually going to be the square footage of the interior, it is technically in compliance. It's the lean-to that would bump it, pun intended, out of compliance. And it is self-created, as most of these are self-created. I do note about the character, you know, I didn't see the plans of the color and the shed, but I would just have that being consistent with the residential home, that the look matches the home of the property. What else?
That's perfect.
that's perfect.
That's what I
Okay.
was just going to say, making sure the color, and making sure that the light distribution, if there's any lights on it, are aimed down so they're not aimed on the street, and preferably not ones that are left on all night.
If I might, the only thing I would add to your motion is, I think you said no commercial storage use. I would.
Commercial use.
Commercial use,
Commercial
use,
period. We don't want an office there. We don't want any business meetings there or anything like that. So all residential, all personal use.
I'll second that with all the changes.
So I just had another thought, and I apologize. Is there any possibility of putting in front of it, between the front of the building and the street, maybe some bushes or some trees or something? There seems to be enough space that might create a barrier so that someone who's walking their dog or walking on the street wouldn't actually have to even look at it. Just throwing that out there, because you did bring up the visuals, so.
There are a couple existing, I don't know, can you give us the street level if you could
Yeah.
again, please? Maybe that would be helpful to see, because it's kind of tucked in the middle of the trees. Yeah, so it's right down, about where your cursor is, maybe a little further down behind where the pole is going. Yeah, it's kind of tucked back in there.
Okay.
So I guess, you know, make whatever reasonable and
Yeah, of course.
cost-efficient ways there are to buffer the look.
Yeah, there's some nice mature trees that he does not intend to remove.
Good. Okay.
Motion.
We have a motion to approve for the reasons so eloquently stated, and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, nice job.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks, for coming out. Thank you. And I think we have one more application.
We do.
Right.
Somebody who was very patient.
Doug Beachel, Brew Team New York, LLC, 3108 Vestal Parkway East, Vestal, New York, 13850. Request approval for an area variance under Section 250-14.3 of the code to allow a drive-through coffee shop with less setback than permitted under Section 250-5.7D3 of the code at 2130 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road. The applicant is also requesting approval for a special use permit for signage under Section 250-10.3A of the code to allow more than one building sign, whereas a maximum of one building sign is permitted under Section 250-10.13-C of the code. Greater overall building sign area than permitted under Section 250-10.13B of the code, and larger traffic control signage than permitted under Section 250-10.17 of the code at 2130 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road. This property is currently or formerly owned by Cary Ventures, Fairport 9 Mile Point Road LLC, and is zoned GB/TFOD, SBL number 140.01-2-4.1/PERK. Application number 26Z-0033. Whew.
Perfect.
It's easy for you to say.
If you just give us your name and address, please.
Yeah, I'm Doug Beachell. I'm Director of Entitlements for Brew Team New York LLC. We are a franchisee of 7 Brew Coffee. My address is 3186 Samantha Drive, Baldwinsville, New York.
Perfect, thank you. So you are here tonight for the proposed 7 Brew on the plaza, or the parcel there. And it's primarily not the building, but it's the canopy that hangs off the side going to the north, I guess closest to Cam's Pizzeria. It'll be, I think it was just under 6.5 feet, that you'd be too close than what's allowed. You're required to be set back 20 feet, but you're going to be about 13 3/4 feet from the north side of the property. Tell us a little bit about, I guess, why we can't gain back 6 feet on an undeveloped property. And yeah, I guess let's start right there.
Thank you. So this portion, we basically have this portion of the property under contract for lease. So we're limited in terms of our width because of another applicant who is coming in parallel to us to the property to the, I think it's actual south. They appeared with us at the planning board last week, and that's another restaurant user concept. Apparently that lease is not sold, so it hasn't been disclosed who that is. But a fast casual with a mobile order station. So to fit both uses on the property, we're really limited to that width by what we're able to obtain through our lease.
Okay. And I'll say the residential area is basically to the back there behind the private drive. That's more the residential areas to the back. So the variance is really impacting, I guess, another commercial neighbor and the farthest from the residential properties.
Correct. Yeah, a side yard setback that essentially is closest to the corner of the Cam's parking lot, and then sort of the back portion of that wooded area.
Yep. And primarily the reason for the canopy is because order takers are underneath that, so that protects them from inclement weather primarily, and also safety?
Not entirely. The order takers typically are further back in the two-car drive stack.
Okay.
That's primarily for delivering beverages to the customers through their windows of their vehicles.
Okay.
So the lane closest to the building is fully covered by the canopy, and then the second lane, that canopy extends about halfway over, so it covers the driver's side window.
Okay. But in a sense, it's still to keep the, if you're picking up your order, things aren't falling on you if it's raining or snowing or whatever in our area.
Yeah, and that's where some payment transactions occur. Mostly it's on a mobile device prior to that in the line, but also that's where you're delivered your beverage. And then if you want additional creamers, sugars, anything of that nature, there's a couple of stands that are out there, and the employees will give those to you as you receive your beverage.
The canopy being closer to the north, any kind of illumination that I guess would be worse if it was from where it sits compared to 6 feet farther from there, would anything impact it?
No, the canopy has recessed lights.
So more downlight.
Yeah, they're all downlight. So it really it's a work area. So that's really why if we look at the foot candles, it's anywhere from 8 to 10 under that canopy. But it's essentially equivalent to an indoor space right there. So yeah, it's all downlit. It really there's not a lot of bleed over.
Okay. So it wouldn't impact anything from the 250 side, and we wouldn't expect any impacts then from the Cam's parking lot side for that.
Yeah, and really, the building is fully without, the structure itself, the main structure, our main building is 510 square foot. The cooler is 338 square foot next to it, cooler storage. The canopy, the building is well within the side yard setback. The canopy is really just covering a portion of the drive aisle. So it's not it's structural, but it's not a building.
Perfect, okay. Now let's talk signs. Shannon, can you bring up the sign? There's a grab, yeah, perfect. Actually, that one from the top is probably fine too, to start with. We're looking for extra signs than what's allowed. You're technically allowed one building mounted sign, one freestanding sign. From what I understand, you're forgoing the freestanding monument sign and looking for additional building mounted signs, similar to, I think, the one on Empire Boulevard, or almost exactly the same?
Exactly the same.
Exactly the same, okay.
Which was great, because I could cut and paste and create this presentation much easier.
So the signs will face to the north, to the south, and then to the 250 side, to the west. Does that make sense for the building mounted signs?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so no signs, no illuminated, I guess, signs facing back towards the residential neighbors that they would see glowing at 10:30 at night while they're still open, in a sense, through their windows or in the wintertime?
Correct, yeah. No, there are no illuminated signs that would
And
face the
then
neighbors.
the additional signs are usually, I think, are the drive aisle signs that are on the side of the building? Are they directional signs?
Yeah, the ones that are on the side of the building, there's the one in the front under the windows. It's just, it's a mounted directional sign. It just says drive-through coffee underneath it.
Right.
And then on the sides of the building, the ones on the side are red. There's one on the side of the cooler right there. And then the one on the bottom image, we've started using a full canopy that will go along that whole side and then connects to that rear canopy. So that sign, I don't even think we would probably apply it because it's covered by the canopy. So
could we say 4 signs?
yeah, we could.
Okay.
I like that.
That works. So it's really identical to the Empire Boulevard one then, really, for, actually, I think most of your locations are
Yeah,
cookie
they're
cutter.
modular, they're pre-manufactured. A lot of times the signs will come on them, depending on the municipality and the sign ordinance in terms of permitting.
Okay. Illumination all night or just when they're open?
Just when they're open.
Okay.
So we'll shut down pretty much all lighting 1 hour after closing.
Okay. And that's usually 11 o'clock, I think?
It's
10:30?
11 o'clock on Friday and Saturday and 10 o'clock the rest of the week.
Okay.
So I have a question about where this is located. So this is like Old Perkins, is that?
Yes.
Way back, yeah.
Way back when? Okay. Does this have access to the access road back there?
Yes.
Who's responsible for paving that? Because that needs to be paved. Can we put that somewhere?
Planning board.
I can tell you the planning board is well aware of that. And
Okay.
yeah, so ultimately the property owner of this property and the parcel behind is the same ownership. And in order to develop this piece for us, leased to us, and then the other one that's potentially coming, in parallel to us, that's a condition that the planning board has put on basically everybody to figure out how we can get this access road updated.
Because my only other concern is obviously just the signage in the parking lot for the flow of everything. And coming out on 250, if everybody is always exiting that way, that's just, listen, I go to McDonald's like 4 times a week. It's a tight squeeze to get out there. So having that access road functional would be really important. So I just wanted that to be noted somewhere, that my concerns.
I think all users, all commercial entities along that stretch would agree.
Yeah.
At the other end of that access road, the one that exits on Penfield, is if you're going to head west out of that exit, you have to wait a little bit. Basically wait for the traffic light at the intersection, which is fine. But there's a lot of businesses there that people use and then exit out that way as well. Let me ask you something. Do you do all the presentations for these applications in this area?
Yes, I do.
You must be going everywhere, because these are popping up like everywhere. Oh, my goodness gracious.
You don't
Good
wanna
for
know.
you. I mean, people love it. I drove by the one in Canandaigua the other day, and there must have been 10, 12 cars in line. It's incredible.
I'm at 3 or 4 planning board hearings a week. I'm on my planning board in
This is one
town
of the
of
nicest
Lysander.
zoning boards you've
Absolutely, absolutely.
I figured as
Actually,
much.
I did want to credit you on how you run a meeting. It's great. So, yes, every night of the week I'm somewhere in New York or Delaware.
Wow. Oh, good for you guys. Any other questions from the board?
No, sir.
Let me see, nobody's on the phone. Nobody said a minute. Electronic comments? Would you like to speak about this, ma'am? Come on up.
Just give us your name and address when you start. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, my name is Isabella Walters, 42 Broxton Drive, and I'm right behind all of this stuff that's going on now. And you had brought about that road. I mean, it's a private road. What, not even addressing what's on it, what can you require, since it's a private road, can you require anything? They can patch it any way they want to. Is that true?
This board can, it's probably a planning board.
Okay.
Might add stipulations for their approvals, because they deal with site plans, where we just deal with, how close you are to a property line, number of signs.
So you also do not deal with, because there's another building that's coming there too, anything to do with drainage? There's a pond there right now, and you don't have anything to do with that's part of what board do I have to?
That'd be the planning board.
Planning board would be dealing with that, because at the time, I can't remember if it was him or somebody was here last week, and they were talking about they won't even be using the current exit area that is required and used by Burger King, because there are a number of things that have been built since the original structures were there. They weren't there before. So obviously the drainage is different now. And we were questioning, this was a group of people who live in the area, all being sort of adjacent to that road, whether or not there was an effect to the deforestation of it, which did occur, because they had to build stuff on it. And the drainage, it's been an adjustment. But again, that's all about addressing a different board.
Yeah, my guess is that you want to do the planning board, and then with the other parcel, or the other portion of that parcel, they're probably going to jointly manage the stormwater management portion of it, and they'll both be probably working together with their plans with the town engineers and their own engineers, coming up with how things drain now with the new layout.
Okay, so that's putting it sort of like in Mark Valentine's area then?
You got it.
Okay. That's what I just needed to know about, because at the meeting we were at last week, that was not mentioned, and it's kind of important in that, first of all, that road is such in disarray. And the other thing is, with Seven Brews going there, there's still other places, other people. It's used extensively from 441, because there's the M&T Bank, there's another way to get into McDonald's, and there's another way to go when Perkins was there, that was used, and this is going to use it. So that's why the concern was on what's happening with that pond that's being used, but we're at the wrong board for it to be addressed.
You are at the right board, because this is the better of the two.
Okay. Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
But they are the ones that will handle your issue with or your concerns about the stormwater management, site plan review. A lot of that happens automatically. I think, they manage all those things. There's check boxes they go through and make sure those aspects are covered when they're hearing those as well.
I didn't actually get paperwork, or the person who started the whole thing did not get anything from Mark Valentine yet. Certainly we got a suggestion on things that we can do on our own properties, but this was addressing what we knew was coming, which included the new facilities to be built. And does this need to make sure it's addressed as they build these other things? And we know of the two that right now that are going to be built.
What we'll do is we will ask Shannon to make sure that her counterpart for the planning board is aware that you came here tonight and made these comments, and they can, the members can watch the video of this presentation. But of course, you're welcome to attend that meeting as well.
Sure.
and speak
I
there.
want to emphasize that it was Albania, my neighbor, who actually, because of the difference in the amount of water that's on her property and then 4 other people, I've had problems before. So I had in 2023, Mark Valentine did come out to look at it and make sure the drainage was correct at that point, and it was. But again, it was not, this plannings refer back to before all these buildings where they're, just like that exit road is now been inundated by all these additional people who don't go out to 251, or it's just faster to do the cut around anyway. So that was the idea of finding out if the drainage system, which he said may need some adjustments.
Right.
Okay, but it's worth
Do you have
mentioning.
another day with planning board scheduled?
Actually, I was going to comment, we did, but it's been canceled. So next week's planning board meeting is just FYI. So don't show up next week.
So are you on the one
We'll
that
be on
occurs
the July something.
whatever it is, July something?
And who, the person who was here last Thursday had mentioned about they would not be using that pond, but I don't know what goes from there. I don't know. So obviously they must have something in the works to plan the drainage is going to be changed some way or another. Whether it's going underground, I'm not even sure. Okay.
Well,
Just
all legitimate questions that, as I said.
very good.
You can ask
And
them.
I do want to credit my
pass them
neighbor with Albania Bubin, who lives next door, because she was the one that noted the time that I had problems in 2023, I was the only lot that flooded. But she's had even bigger problems, and we were addressing that last week when we were here. But she was the person who actually checked with the other neighbors and found out there were 4 other neighbors whose, they're varying amounts of water, but we're finding that their properties were not the same as the previous year. And when I did 2023, I had checked, because that was the time I think they were doing some work associated with what's the cable company?
Green light.
Green light. And that did not make it the difference. So, okay, I appreciate you doing the referrals then.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank
Sure.
you.
The next planning board meeting is July 9th, by the way, right here in this room.
All right. So there's no one else, well, unless any of you guys want to speak about this application, but let's move the consideration.
Okay, let's see. This is a unlisted action, and I'll further issue a negative declaration.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye. And then on to the merits. For the area variance, there's no impact that was identified here. I think in terms of illumination, it's adjacent to a commercial property, which could have similar uses as well for parking lots and lights for their lots. So I don't have any issues with that. So I will move to approve the area variance. Do we have to do them separately or not?
No.
I don't have to, right? All right, perfect. So I'll move to approve that. And then for the signage, we're going to 4 signs. I'm going to move to approve that. This is actually more in compliance than the other 7 brew, I guess, on Empire Boulevard, because now we have 4 signs versus 5. And in terms of the issues, none of the signs will illuminate towards the residential areas. They're actually illuminating towards the 250 or the other commercial parcels, so I don't see an issue with how that will be proceed from the residential area. And there's no other undesirable changes that were found for that for the neighborhood. So I'll move to approve that as well.
Okay. I will second the motion and ask if there's any further discussion. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Okay.
Quick question.
Sure.
With regard to the planning board meeting on the 9th of July, will
will another yellow will a card come out to the people who already received the card?
Probably not, because it
I
was,
don't think so, because it's tabled.
Yeah. Probably not, because it's tabled, is what Shannon just said. So spread the word.
I will spread the word.
I'm sure he'd love to see a lot of neighbors coming out and
You
support.
can submit comments in advance of the hearing. So, I mean, I would certainly recommend you be there, but you can, and your neighbors can,
The person who actually did do that. Okay,
Great.
thank you very much.
thank you.
Have a good night. All right, that was the last application, so we're all set. No tabled applications for next month. So thank you all very much. Good job.
Thanks. Good night.